lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion. If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Hey, Jillian. I think you might still be muted, so you can't hear me. Or, I mean, I can't hear you, I should say.
How about now? Every time. So it wouldn't be a show if I didn't not mute myself before we start. So you just got back from Yellowstone. Tell us all about your trip.
I went to Yellowstone. No, look, it was great. I mean, I did, obviously, I love to travel. It's something I do a lot. And the last several months, that's not been an option. I saw a really cheap flight to Yellowstone from Nashville. And I thought there probably aren't a lot of people in in Yellowstone. There's probably not a lot of people in the airports. So I'll take a chance. I put on my mask and my gloves and brought my hand sanitizer with me and hopped on a plane and went out to the Yellowstone for a week with my dad, which was great because, you get to spend time with your dad on Father's Day and all that stuff. So you only get one chance to do those kind of things. And there was hardly anyone there, right? I mean, it was basically empty. So it was a really good time.
Right. I have a picture of you here. I trolled your Instagram, and here you are. On your Instagram with and somewhere in Yellowstone. Where is this? Because I wanted to ask. I was very surprised to see this. That's
Mammoth Hot Springs. So it's just giant hot spring, it's a lot of geothermal activity there in Yellowstone, and the hot springs are really huge, and that's what that is. It's Mammoth Hot Springs. It's all all the sediment and stuff just from all this stuff gurgling out of the ground. It just builds it up over time. But yeah, I mean, it was really beautiful. I think that's also Mammoth Hot Springs there. And of course, the bison and all that stuff. And we just learned right before the show that our guest today actually spent a summer working in Yellowstone. So maybe he can tell us a little bit about that as well. He probably knows much more about Yellowstone than either of us because of that. So
wait, what is this? Oh, that's you in a mask. What is this back here? Do you see this? Can you see my little cursor?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. Good question.
Is that water?
I don't know what picture that is. You said that's on my Instagram?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure what I put up there. It could be water, though. I mean, there's a lot of lakes and streams and stuff like that. It also could just be. I don't know why I would have put that picture up. I can't really see what's in there. Are those? Those are goats, right? So
they're. I don't know. They look like elk or.
Yeah, elk out in the distance. It's probably water then. Yeah, it's probably water.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow! Well, that's really cool. I'll have to tell you, I am jealous of the fact that you got to go on a trip. I'm not getting on a plane anytime soon. We did discuss driving to Yellowstone after seeing that you went, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not up on the getting on a plane or traveling or anything like that quite yet.
I will tell you, there's hardly anyone there. And I mean, I've been to Yellowstone a few times before, and it's usually like basically a parking lot. And now you can drive like 5-10 minutes and only see a few cars, which is unbelievable experience because the wildlife's happier with less people there. And of course, you can stop and enjoy the scenery and go for hikes and be completely by yourself, which Yellowstone's so big, you can get away from the crowds anyway. You can park somewhere and go for a 2-mile hike, and you're going to be away from people. But now you could go like literally around the corner and be away from people. So that was really nice.
Well, the thing is, I noticed that you went to Yellowstone, and then one of our other Last Lifers Carl Daniel went to Yosemite a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he had the same experience. Carl, if you're listening to this, please type in the comments to let us know what your experience was. Well, listen, we've been jabbering for about 5 minutes, not that long. And I always like talking to you, Jeff. And I don't know if our audience likes us talking to each other. I don't really care. But I kind of don't want to talk to you too much today because our guest is such a special guest. What do you have to say about our guest today, Jeffrey?
Well, I mean, so our guest is Harry Dent Jr. Harry is someone that I have a lot of respect for. He's written several best-selling books. I believe he has another one coming out soon. We'll let him tell us about that. But Harry is an economic prognosticator. He predicts where the economy is going, and he's got an interesting track record. He was able to predict some things like the crash in the Japanese economy when everyone else thought Japan was taking over the world back in the late 80s and early 90s. He said, no, they've got demographic issues. And that's how he predicts this stuff. He looks at long-term demographic trends, and he's able to be very accurate over the long term. And I think he'll tell you it's a lot easier to predict over the long term than the short term. What's going to happen next week is harder to predict than what's going to happen over the next 5 years. That's what Harry does, and he's really good at it. And he's got an interesting perspective, and he's going to talk to us today about that perspective. So.
Well, I'm interested in hearing, and one of the sells we gave Mr. Dent to get on the show is that we wanted him to specifically talk about the travel industry, because we know you last lifers out there are itching to get back out there traveling, much like Jeff over here was itching to get out there and travel. And so we want to see what travel opportunities might there be out there and how can we take advantage of them. So without further ado, let's bring on our very special guest, Mr. Harry Dent. Hi, Harry.
Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Sure.
So, Jillian, do you want to start this out here? Or are you good? Do you want me just to ask some questions?
Yeah, no. I have a ton of questions. First of all, what's going to happen with the airline industry?
Well, next to movie theaters, down 95%, they're down 90% at worst. I mean, this is unprecedented. A lot of AAA rated companies, Fortune 100 companies, became junk bonds overnight, because it's one thing to have your sales go down 10 or 20% in a recession, but 90% for airlines, 80% for, cruise ships, 70% for hotels, a lot of retail industries down 40, 50%. I mean, this is a shock. It's an instant depression. I hate to say it. I love it because they keep pushing this stupid bubble, something for nothing, keep inflating assets to keep things going another year. And we're just going to have the longer it goes, the worse the crash we're going to have. And this is the perfect trigger because I think what we're going to find out, we start a V-shaped recovery and then we get about halfway there and oops, oh no, airlines aren't coming back for a couple of years. Cruise ships aren't coming back for a couple of years. A lot of small businesses were already marginal, and a lot of big businesses. I mean, you see Hertz and Neiman Marcus. I mean, I'm two of their best customers, by the way. And they're not going under because they got bad brands or products. They're over leveraged. Oh, well, a lot of companies are over leveraged. And best thing I saw the other day, this guy had a newsletter, and he somehow was able to tabulate what percentage of the companies out there are zombie companies, which means they're still operating, but they can't even pay any of their debts or interest, which means they should be dead, and they would be dead if the Fed didn't prop up the economy and prop up the banks and not force the banks to write down their loans and all this sort of stuff. So I like, real life where you have real opportunity and real consequences. I don't like an economy that's just living on crack, I call it, literally crack. Just keep pouring money in that thing. And I'm like, why did we ever have to work or innovate if this is what we could do? So this is not going to end well. And unfortunately, the travel industry is hit the worst. I travel a good bit. I used to live on the road. 95 to 2003, I lived on the road and had to start canceling speeches and stuff because it was killing me. And I travel a lot. overseas, and a lot of times I get paid for to go over to Thailand or Australia or Europe or something. Then I take my wife and then we vacation after that, which is a great deal. And I am not going to travel at all, except for a little hill hopper over my island. It's just like, 60 miles and 30-minute hill hopper flight. And so, I mean, that's crazy. That hasn't happened to me since I was in high school or something. No, I'm not going to get on a single flight this year. I was supposed to do 2 tours of Australia, which is my best market now, because they're really eager, innovative people over there, and they don't have a million experts on everything like we have here in the United States, So you go over there and people like, I mean, it's really, I have a much better audience over there and much higher quality people. I'm not going over there. 2 tours I'm not going to have. You know what that is to the airline industry? Just on what they spend for me in airfare, $30,000, $15,000 a tour to get me over there back business class and then to fly me around to 5 or 6 cities over a week and a half. That's how much revenue just on those 2 tours the poor airlines are losing for me, including the hotels and the presentation. So this is the tough thing. But my problem is we are going to get over this virus. It's already seemed, except in the U.S., which we're just kind of being the rednecks of the world, don't, tell my shotgun if you want me to wear a mask sort of thing, and we're the only ones that don't have deaths declining pretty precipitously. And but this is the virus seems to be weakening on its own. It's not getting stronger like some past virus. So the virus is not going to be the problem a year or 2 from now. The problem is going to be what I'm forecasting. This bubble that they put off and off and off for years and created a bigger and bigger monster. They're now printing $3.5 trillion in less than a year, $3 trillion in extra fiscal stimulus, which is just crazy to get the economy to grow a little or just to come back. And that's not sustainable. So we're going to go into this downturn, and that's going to make this last longer for the travel industry. Now, I've said from the beginning, this will bottom around late 2022. We'll come out of it 2023. That's when the travel industry will do well again, as long as the virus doesn't come back. And I do not think I think the virus is going to be long over by then. People say it's going to change things forever. Yeah, well, maybe more people working at home, which they should. Maybe less people going around, jumping all around all day neurotically, do little stupid things and polluting cities. Maybe that, but people do want to go on cruise ships. People do want to travel, and they're going to want to travel more than ever. So when it does come back, it's going to come back big. And I'm going to be using my frequent flyer miles as fast as I can in case American goes under, because I'm a super duper pooper on them, frequent flyer. So
that's a great point. So you're saying we should start, if you have frequent flyer miles, you should use them.
Yeah, the planes are empty, like Jeff said, and yeah, use them now. I mean, they're going to have to get stricter on this stuff. They have over time. I've been I had 4 million frequent flyer miles at one time. Now I got maybe 1.5 million on America and then another million spread over others. But I used to have probably 5 or 6 million in total. And man, they're a lot harder to use. I went to South Africa first class, not business class, for 250,000 miles round trip for 2. I can't even get 1 over there now.
It's true. They've definitely devalued the miles over the last, half a decade or so. I've seen that trend, and they're going to continue to do that. And so storing them up is almost always a bad idea. But right now, for maybe the first time in a decade, they're actually more valuable. I've been looking at my frequent flyer miles, and I'm seeing that they're running frequent flyer mile specials because the planes are empty, right? So you can get like domestic flights for 10,000 miles or something stupid like that. And depending on how, if you're in an at-risk category or whatever, if you're willing to take a little bit of risk. I mean, I got on a plane and pretty much everyone was wearing a mask, and I had 2 empty seats next to me. I don't know that I took that much risk.
I know.
And I'm not.
It's a lot better with 2 seats empty.
It's way better.
I tell you my secret though. I've always 90% used my frequent flyer miles for overseas travel, because a business class ticket costs roughly 5 times a coach ticket when you go overseas, where it's roughly double domestically, but you only take twice the miles internationally. So it's a much better deal for me to use my miles to go to Thailand, Southeast Asia, or Europe or South Africa. And what I'm going to do as soon as they tell me to go to Australia early next year, mid next year, I'm going to say, give me your best price. It's going to cost you. I'm going to give you 15% off and use my frequent flyer miles because I'll be able to get them easier, at this time when flying's less. So I actually could turn them into valuable cash at that rate.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Of course, I think most of our listeners probably don't have that actual option because they're not getting paid to go places. But for the people that are, that's a pro tip. But I do think using your miles makes a lot of sense right now. You said you think that the cruise line's going to come back really strong because people are going to want to get out there. I know for me, I already was ready to get out there, right? Like I needed to go. That's why I went to Yellowstone. I'm used to traveling, every couple of months I'm going somewhere. I just got back from Africa. Actually March 6th, so right in the nick of time, right? I was there for the entire month of February. And I was ready to go. I'm ready to go again. Like I want to go somewhere else right now. And I've only been back for a day. And I think there's a lot of people that are out there that are, wanting to get out there. So tell us about the cruise industry. You're saying you think it's going to come back strong? A lot of people are saying it's dead.
I'll be up front. I am not a big cruise fan. Too many people trying to find happiness at the same time in a small place. For me. But I know people who love cruises. They love cruises. My sisters love cruises. I got tons of friends that love cruises. It's the most convenient vacation. You don't have to pack and repack. You don't have to go through customs. You don't get jet lagged. Hopefully you don't get Montezuma's revenge. It really is. And what I find, my demographic work, we get very specific about sectors as people age. General travel, like, okay, flying over to Europe, like I'm talking about, or Thailand, that peaks between 60 and 63. That's when people say, oh, that's too stressful. It's fun for a while. And then after you do it the 10th time, you're like, oh my God, it's just too much. Can't get sick or jet lag again or whatever. I spent the night in Heathrow. I've done that a number of times, things like that. Then they discover cruise ships. And it's like, my God, stuff me food and booze. I'm happy. I wake up. Oh, there's Thailand. Next day. Oh, there's Indonesia and Komodo dragons. Like, holy crap. It really, cruise ships don't peak until 74. And you know what? I bet it'll be later, 5 years from now, because 7 years ago when I measured it, I redo this stuff, it was peaking at 70. So cruises are only becoming more popular. They're seen as the best bang for the buck, but most of all, with aging people, the least stressful. And remember what they say about cruise ships, nearly dead and newlywed. Those are the customers. Both extremes.
Well, I'll tell you, my wife and I, we went on our honeymoon on a cruise and we fell in love with it. I mean, I like to travel. I've backpacked around Europe. I've gone both extremes. I go really nice sometimes, but cruising is very, very easy. But, are we going to be able to cruise like in the fall? I mean, they keep putting it out. I mean, is it done for the year?
I think that comes back. Come on, that's going to come back very slowly. You got to have a vaccine and people got to see that it's really going away and not. It's not enough to say, oh, now they can cure it and you're a little less likely to die. Hey, I don't want to get the damn thing, okay? In the first place and damage my lungs or heart or whatever, that sort of stuff. So I think, and normally it'd be at least a year before things like that come back. But I think because of this downturn, the downturn I'm predicting is going to be the steepest we've seen because first of all, it's natural after the biggest generation in history drives the biggest boom in history, which I was the only idiot to see. You know why? Because I didn't take frickin' economics. That's why.
Well, you have an MBA, right?
Anything. Scientists can tell you when the sun's going to burn out in 5 billion years, for crying out loud. And economists can't predict anything past the next election. So I learned through other methods to predict things. I took economics. That was my major for 3 courses, and I said, to hell with this. So I took everything else, accounting and finance, and then business management and marketing and business strategy, and kept learning about business and consulting to large companies and then small companies. I learned the most from the small companies in the early 80s because their customers were the young baby boomers starting new trends back then. The Fortune 100, when I was at Bain & Company consulting to them, their customers were people like me, old farts, 60, 70 years old, buying the old Sears stuff and the old Chevrolets and all the crap that, young people like, why would anybody buy that? You know, and so that's where I learned. I saw the baby boom, and I started studying them. I'm like, oh, people have no idea. You know what happens? People go from nothing, spending nothing, to the peak spending between 20 and 46. Boom. The biggest generation do that. So I saw that coming, and that's how I got known. And I've gotten a lot of other indicators since. But you can't expect that size of boom. And when a generation like that, after 2007, slows down on their spending, and the next generation's not is big a wave of people, and it's great a growth engine, you're going to slow down for a long time. That's why we've been living on quantitative easing forever. It's to make up for the lack of spending of the baby boomers. Problem is they've created a bigger financial asset bubble and all this sort of stuff, and now we're going to have to go through that. But we would have a very weak economy, particularly in the next few years anyway. This bubble bursting is going to make it worse. So that's my fear, is that's what's going to hit. The virus hits. The travel industry is just the epitome of everything I see. This virus creates a shock. Certain industries get hit the worst, i.e. travel, and they have the hardest coming back, and they also then suffer the downturn. But of course, travel is something people do more later. But there is a big distinction. Cruise ships, if for some reason they don't people just say, no, I'm sorry, that was a bad idea. And I do not believe that. I mean, people love cruise ships. It is the best bang for buck. They will come back stronger than ordinary travel because it's so much easier. And older people are more sensitive.
People are going to trade, or it's because the population is aging. And so baby boomers are going to be like, look, I don't want to have to worry about it. I just want to get on somewhere and not worry about it.
The normal, I'm going to fly over to Europe or Southeast Asia to Thailand, or go to Australia and see kangaroo type of travel, or South Africa and see the animals. That will peak naturally in 1961, 2024, you know. And so it won't last that long. The cruise ships, it's 74 peak, and probably later than that. That's going to go out another decade or more after that. So cruise ships, I mean, I would love to be buying cruise ship stocks at the bottom of this next downturn around 2022, because they'll be selling down 95% or something, and they'll probably come back the strongest.
So they were,
faster than the airlines.
Yeah, so the cruise ships were down already like 80%, and they've bounced back up. You know, I think they're like, I had bought some Carnival like at $10, and now it's like 18 or something. So it's up, 80% in 2 months or something like that. But I think you're telling me I should sell that, right?
Yeah. I'd sell it at 18 and wait a few years for 5.
Okay.
5, then
All
I buy it. Same thing for cryptocurrencies, by the way. They're gonna go down farther than they have so far. Bigger percentage drop in the next years, and then they're gonna be the next internet. They're the internet of financial things, the digitization of all financial assets and money. That's a big deal. So blockchain, and it's not so much cryptocurrency. Blockchain is the next big thing in technology. I tell people 2 things for investment and in business too. If you could have seen in the last boom that it wouldn't just be the baby boom in the developed world, but it would be China urbanizing and moving into the modern world at light speed. Guess who's going to do that next time? It ain't going to be China. China's done it, overdone it, aging already, the first emerging country to be past their peak workforce growth and demographic potential. India and Southeast Asia are going to be the next China. But in technology, the internet's maturing, and the internet's about information and communication. This is about things of value. That's a big deal. And especially as the world's getting richer and all that sort of stuff. So buying blockchain companies and buying cruise ships and buying India and Southeast Asia, the bottom of this next thing, oh my God, you just make a fortune. Just sit back and just think if you'd have bought anything in 1932 to 33 at the bottom of the greatest depression history, or ditto at the bottom of the last generation spending cycle in the early 80s. If you'd have bought anything, the stocks, real estate, commodities, anything, you would have made a fortune.
But okay, so this is, I just want to back up for a second, because we're really supposed to be focusing on travel, but Is this going to be worse than the 2008 downturn? And what can our expectations be? Oh, it is.
Yes,
Okay.
because they stopped the 2008 downturn, which was looking like 1930-31, from doing its work. You're supposed to deleverage a lot of debt, which takes burdens off of consumers and businesses. You're supposed to get rid of these zombie companies so you can now invest, or the good companies can take over those customers and market share and be more productive with it. You're supposed to get people out of bad industry workers into better new growth industries. You have to force people to change. You know what's so great about this virus? It kicks people's ass. It wakes people up and wait a minute. And the next thing you know, oh my gosh, all the pollution in our city disappeared because we're not running around doing all types of crazy stuff all day, which maybe we only need to do half as much. Why does everybody go to work every day? Maybe every other day. I never go to work. You know how much time I save not having to dress up? I spend half my time working in my bathrobe. I save an hour and a half, 2 hours, not commuting, not dressing up, not not even combing my hair half the time, unless I have to get on an interview with you guys. Okay?
Well, you don't even, you know what? You don't have to comb. If you ever come on again, you don't have to comb your hair. We're okay with it. But you're preaching to the choir, because I've been saying this the whole time. Like I've been saying for years, you should live as close as possible to work. And ideally you work from your house, right? Like, so my wife works 4.5 minutes from where we live, and I work from my basement. And our total commute is 9 minutes, 5 days a week, right? That's it. Like, that's a great commute.
Time saved. And also, I hate sitting in traffic. I'd rather be at the dentist than sitting in traffic, okay? I just hate being cooped up and can't move and stop and go and and, you know, dumb people over here and dumb people over there and people honking as if it does any good. You know, so yeah, I think this virus is a great stimulus. I think it's going to end up, people are going to look back and say, you know, that was a worthwhile thing. When Hurricane Maria hit us in Puerto Rico in 2017, a year and a half after we moved here, we get hit with that. It was just like this virus. It was a knockout punch for 3 months. Everything stopped. We had to leave for 2.5 months and then come back when I could function. But it woke up this place. You know, this is a sleepy place, okay? Mañana, they call it. It woke up this place. And so I think this virus is going to be a good thing. It's too bad that the travel industry has to be one of the worst hit. Because obviously for me, you know, there's just certain things I like. I love eating out at good restaurants, and I love travel. Somebody asked me on a show not too long ago, what would you do if you didn't do what I do? You know what I do? I met a guy when I was in, where the hell was it? Oh, in India. This guy travels around for Rob Report and reviews the best boutique hotels, $1,000, $2,000 a night. That's what I would do that. I would do that and rate the restaurants and the hotels because I love travel. I love going in cultures. I mean, that I could get into doing.
So,
I wouldn't make as much money as doing what I do, but I could do that in a heartbeat.
So by the way, as a quick side note, you recommended when my wife and I were in Puerto Rico, you recommended to me a little boutique restaurant. Actually, a couple. One was a Turkish place that I don't remember, Istanbul, I think. Yeah, and that was really good. Have they opened back up, or are they still shut down?
No, they are open. They're good.
Yeah, that's delicious. And then the other was like a set menu. I don't remember the name of it.
Marmalade. It's a
marmalade
menu with 3, 4, 5, or 6 courses, depending on how much money you want to spend. Yeah, it's got good atmosphere. It's right in Old San Juan. I mean, most of the restaurants, those are the only 2 restaurants, by the way, I like in Old San Juan.
Well, both of them were delicious. So I appreciate those recommendations. So, you know, I'm thinking for our audience, though, most of them don't live in San Juan, so they maybe working from their house is less attractive. Like you can walk, you live a few blocks from the beach, right? So you can just walk down to the beach if you want. Yeah. Not everyone has that option. What would you say to them? Should they still work from their house, or? Well,
then it's different. It depends on your job. I mean, when I go out, I'm on the road and I'm out speaking and meeting people and going from here to there, but I don't do that most of the time. I did for several years. And I tell you, I would not do that again. Living on the road is not a good lifestyle. So I go out at times, and then I'm intensely, when I go out, man, I don't get a rest. You know, I give my speech, and then I got to go meet with somebody who's a billionaire, and then I got to go to a VIP lunch, and then I got to go close it in the afternoon to keep people there. So it's intensive, but the rest of the time, I'm sitting with a great view, looking over the ocean and the harbor in Puerto Rico. And when I'm not there, I'm at my island with a great view. And I'm just working from my home, and I'm doing research, writing my newsletters, and doing interviews. And so I don't really need to interact when I'm here. I don't do business in Puerto Rico. I do business from Puerto Rico. And it's not only saving me a quarter, it's cost a quarter for my condo. I'm in beachfront condo here in San Juan from what it would have been if I'd have moved back to South Beach, Miami from Tampa. And the people are nicer here, and there's less traffic. Puerto Rico's actually lost population. And so there's less traffic. And so it's a really good lifestyle for me, but it's not for everybody. And people say, oh, Harry, it must be hotter down there. You're closer to the equator. No, the highest temperature I've seen in 4.5 years here, 92 degrees Fahrenheit, the hottest day. And that was actually 2 days ago, one of them. And the coldest, 69 degrees in Miami, the southern tip of Florida. I could see darn near freezing at times, and I see 98, 99 all the time in the summer. I used to live right by the clock tower at South Beach at Lincoln Road, and I could see exactly how hot it was. So we're in a more temperate climate because the wind, and we're actually 1,000 miles out in the Atlantic. We're almost at the tip of the Caribbean where it goes out to like where is it? The end of the Virgin Islands, and then turns down. We're 60 miles from that, 60 miles from Branson's place at the edge of the Virgin Island. Okay.
Wow.
And so we're way out in the Atlantic Ocean. So that's why it's not as extreme a climate, even though we are, substantially closer to the equator and all that sort of stuff. So it works for me, but everybody, depending on your job, I mean, some people, I don't think anybody should have to go to work. Very few people have to go to work 5 days a week. Now, if you're working in a restaurant, sorry, okay, yes. But if you're in an office setting, most people, you should go part and part. It depends on your profession and what you're doing. But I think what this virus, just like my Australian promoters taught them overnight, I told them that these webinars would work, that I can have just as much impact. You put me on a big screen and let me see people and answer questions. It'll have 90% impact. They did not believe that. Well, it worked. And they're making more money with less cost. So people will learn what's right out of this. And again, sometimes, people, I'm a cycle guy, and frankly, people don't like to talk about cycles because every cycle has its winter or its, kick your ass part of the cycle. So people don't like it. But that's where the most learning comes from. I start off a lot of my speech and say, did you learn more when you got your ass kissed or when you got your ass kicked? Well, there is only one answer to that question. Only one answer. When you get your ass kicked.
Yeah. Well, so you have, so you've been talking about, you always talk about the 4 seasons of the cycle, right? And you line them up with spring, summer, fall, and winter. You're saying we're about to go into winter here, I think.
No, actually, we went into winter 2008. That's why that recession was so much deeper, and it was turning into a depression because we had so much debt. It's the debt that deleverages that makes it a depression instead of a recession. An asset bubble. Stocks were, overvalued, crazy. Real estate. That's the only real estate bubble we've had in the United States since the 1830s, of magnitude like that. So that's what causes that. So they responded by just pumping it. It's like heating up winter. All this money printing is like inflating to fight the deflation in prices and the colder temperatures of winter. And so that's why we've got to go back in the last winter season, 1930 to 42. My demographics would have predicted that perfectly if I'd have had them back then. The greatest crash came at the beginning, which is more normal because the bubble did deleverage and the debt did deleverage, and you had 25% unemployment, and you got rid of zombie companies and zombie banks. So the second downturn at the end, at the bottom of the demographic cycle, was only a deep recession. This time we got a deep recession to start, and we're going to get the depression at the end because we put it off. So we've been in the winter season, but the good thing, now that the economy is looking more treacherous, a lot of the depression types are coming out now. They're coming out and telling people, oh my gosh, this is going to be the beginning of a 10 to 14 year long winter and lost decade, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, this is going to be deep and hard, and we're going to be coming out of it in 2023. This is going to be the end of winter, because that's what I've been saying for 30 years.
And you don't think we can stimulate our way to a flattened curve in reverse, right? Like
No.
we can't just smooth out the bottom of the winter and
these economic, pardon my French, douchebags who never had sex or never run a business, who run these central banks. And you find me one of them ever run a business. Some of them will tell you they have sex. I don't believe it. Okay. They think they can just put this thing on a machine and have it grow at 3% with 1 to 2% inflation and never have a recession. Economies need a recession. Do we not need to sleep at night? See how many nights you can go without sleeping and not turn your mother into the Nazis, okay?
Yeah.
3-4 max before people start going crazy.
Well,
restructure and dream and rebalance our psyche and cleanse our bodies, do all types of stuff at night we don't even aware of. Economists don't understand our economy. We need this downturn. It'll get rid of income and wealth inequality faster than any other measure. It'll clean out a lot of bad debt that we never have to pay off. And who should pay it off? The damn dumbass banks that lent it to us and encouraged us to borrow too much, This is going to right things and put things in. Young people will be able to afford a home again and have even lower mortgage rates down the road. And people will feel richer coming out of this, have more income with less debt, and be able to travel. I mean, again,
that's what we want.
People have extra money. What's the number one thing? For me, eating out and travel. I don't care about anything else. I don't need a
so that you're
and travel.
So you're basically me. I get it, because I often say I eat out more than I eat home. That's not been true the last few months, obviously, but before that was true. I was eating out for dinner like almost every night, like probably 6 days a week. We're eating out to dinner, and even lunches and stuff. I just prefer it that way. But travel, wow, that's great. So we actually do have a couple of questions. Jillian, do you want to put some of those to Harry real quick?
Yeah, put some up. So here's one. How's the government climate? I'm assuming you mean in Puerto Rico right now. Yeah, because you guys had a tumultuous, quite frankly, I lived in Puerto Rico when I was in high school. It's always had a tumultuous government. It's never not had a tumultuous government. So tell us about what's going on there now.
The government's been in trouble. It's still in trouble. I frankly don't know how they're still standing because people, since World War II, it's been a one-way street out of Puerto Rico. Young people leave. Why? They're U.S. citizens. They can move with no restrictions, and the jobs pay more, and there's better jobs in the U.S. in most cases, okay? So they move.
Right.
Well, now that they've moved out for decades, guess who's moving out now? Oh, the grandparents. People get into retirement in their 60s, and they turn around and say, where's my grandkids? Screw the kids. Where's my grandkids? Oh, they're in Orlando, Florida. They move to Florida and get a little, in-law, grandparent unit down the street or in the house and stuff. Old people are now moving out of Puerto Rico rapidly. So they're losing people. And this downturn will fix that because all of a sudden they won't be able to flee to the U.S. So, but Puerto Rico, they have this Act 2022. I actually got on that after I moved here. I didn't move here for the taxes. I moved here to save money on my condo in Miami and to finish and be closer to my vacation home in Culebra, and that was more than worth moving just for that. But this Act 2022 is not the same thing. What made Puerto Rico the middle class center of the Caribbean and the only first world, San Juan is the only first world city now, large city in the Caribbean. It's only because of the pharmaceutical programs that caused a lot of big companies to move and create really good middle-class jobs. Well, they lost some of those, but they're still here. Puerto Rico, to sum it up, got 50% in the middle that are doing darn good, much better, stronger middle class than in the U.S. Their lower class, about 45%, are poverty level. They are not doing well. They're not participating. And the upper 5% instead of 10% are very wealthy, but they're corrupt. I hate to say it, it's kind of a corrupt country, and the government is corrupt. And every time I meet a super successful business person, they're not in business. They own their market. You know, I meet the guy that runs the movie theaters. He owns all of them, all of them. He has no competition. I see that over and over again. So that's not a good sign. The government's in debt. They got some hurricane aid, but not what they should have. My hope for Puerto Rico is that after the virus, another potential good thing from the virus, we realize, oh my gosh, during this crisis, we had to outsource a lot of things from China, masks and drug, pharmaceuticals and stuff overseas. If they decide particularly to bring pharmaceutical and those sort of industries back almost 100% of the U.S., Puerto Rico is the best setup to handle those, especially if they create some tax and if they turn away. So, but otherwise, I tell you, Puerto Rico has the worst demographics, worse than Japan, not because of aging, but because people are always leaving to go to the U.S. because they can. So the U.S. gives them really great trade deals and really high income jobs, but U.S. is also a curse in that it gives their people, and anybody can move from here any day like they're moving from Georgia to Virginia. And
well, of course, we can do the same thing, right? We can move to Puerto Rico just as easy.
But people, only the Act 2022 people do. They are wealthy. They have my view is that the Act 2022 people, it's only about maybe 3,000 people a year move here from the state. That's not much out of 3 million population, a little over. They impact real estate in the areas they move in more than they do. I don't create a lot of jobs here. I created a lot of jobs building my house on the island. So, and that's before, most of that was in the past. This is not like pharmaceuticals where you move giant operations over and create thousands of jobs, high paying, middle-class jobs, and you can't even see these pharmaceuticals. I'm always, where's all the pharmaceutical companies? They just look like office buildings, because they're high tech, new wave. They're not smokestack industries. So they're healthy, high paying, air conditioned jobs. So Puerto Rico really got a great deal on that. If the pharmaceuticals come back, that would help the tax base. And this downturn, frankly, will stem that tide of people moving out for a while.
So that's very interesting.
No.
Yeah. I have a lot of people I know that use, Puerto Rico as a tax haven. I think it's amazing and it's awesome. And I have such good memories of Puerto Rico, and I also have some really bad memories of Puerto Rico just because of the level of crime. Everybody seems, anybody who doesn't have a job, what seems like almost 70% of the population there is living on the government dime.
They're on the U.S. welfare system and Social Security. Now, Social Security they contribute to. And right now on my island, Culebra, I can't even go over there. The last weekend, the first time I've been there in 7 months, partially because of this virus thing. They have not had no cases, no deaths. They don't want anybody coming over there, even if you have a house there. I'm not a full-time resident. I understand they don't want people coming from Puerto Rico and certainly not from New York. So they've shut people out. And you know what? They don't care because they're getting the same $600 extra a week welfare bonus, where a lot of people are making more money than when they were working, and especially in Culebra. So Culebra, I think, would be very happy to just never open up again as long as they kept getting this level of welfare. Of course, that's not going to happen.
Right. Okay.
But Culebra, people don't know. People should know about Puerto Rico. People come here to get on a cruise ship. That's 80-90% of it. People should know Puerto Rico's got great beaches, great hotels, and Culebra and Vieques are two damn nice islands that are kind of not that discovered and not that crowded and not as expensive as going to the Virgin Islands or, St. Lucia or whatever, or Aruba or something. So people come to Puerto Rico, from my view, for the wrong reasons. They go to Old San Juan, they get drunk one night, maybe they go to the El Yunque forest for a half a day, then they jump on a cruise ship and they're gone. And so Puerto Rico actually doesn't have that high percentage of tourist business. Dominican Republic probably has about 20% of their GDP tourism. It's only 6% in Puerto Rico. I was shocked when I saw that.
Wow,
I'm really surprised by that as well, because I don't know. To me, there's so many amazing places to go in Puerto Rico and things to see. I don't mean to sound like a commercial.
Waterfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, I've been to Puerto Rico several times. I didn't live there like the two of you, but you know, we rented a car and drove around, and you know, even getting down to like Ponce or something like that over there, it's so different than like San Juan. Like San Juan's nice, but it's San Juan's. Especially if you just come on a cruise ship, right? Because you just drop off right in Old San Juan, and then you walk around and you go to the tourist shops and stuff. I mean, then it's the same as every other cruise port in the world, which is, to be honest, well, I love cruising. The one thing I don't like about it is it's almost impossible to experience the island you're on because you're all funneled into the same 12 tours, and you do the same thing as the last 5,000 people that showed up the day before, and it's just repeat, right? Like you go to Alaska on a cruise, you go to Aruba on a cruise. It's basically the same experience. It's just you know, you see a different thing when you're there. But it's
what I learned when I did go on cruises. I would go when I'd land somewhere and have like, let's say 3/4 of a day. I'd go find a cool looking cab driver and I'd say, look, I'm hiring you for the day, and I want you to take me to your favorite places. I'm going to pay you for the day.
That's what we did. That's what our family did.
That's what I do all the time too. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So we have another question. Harry, where is your favorite place to travel and why?
Well, it's another reason I wish I lived in Australia. That's where I would live if I could in a civilized country to live. And I also like going there. In the Barrier Reef, I went there way back when it was pristine. I can't even go snorkeling and diving now. It's just a waste of time compared to that. My favorite places is Southeast Asia, hands down. Thailand, particularly Southern Island, Thailand, Indonesia, the whole island of Java. I spent a week and a half in Bora Badur by these Buddhist temples. And it wasn't a Buddhist temple. There's like 5 volcanoes around, all these patties, all these nice people there. You go around, they're just happy to see you. They smoke a Krakatoa or whatever, they cigarette with you and give you all this stuff. Kids come up and you think, oh, they want money. No, they want to guess which movie star you are since they know you're from the United States. They think everybody from the United States is a movie star. They don't think Silicon Valley. They just think Hollywood and TV.
And that's the experience you don't get on a cruise ship, right? Because it's impossible to get away from a million other Americans that have been there. We
were walking up in villages, going into villages, up in the mountains. Old ladies were passing us like 80 miles an hour walking up the hill. 80-year-old ladies barefoot passing us like we were, you know, and we literally sat in the schools and talked to people. We just sit, again, we'd go into somebody's house and smoke one of their god-awful cigarettes with them,
Yeah, no, and there's something to be said about doing that. I mean, I've had some really interesting travel experiences, and it's always when I get off the beaten path, right? You go where everyone else goes, you experience what everyone else experiences.
And I've had friends. If next time I go back, I am definitely going to go to Vietnam and Myanmar. I've been to Cambodia too, all over Indonesia, a lot of places, but I have not been. I would go to Vietnam and Myanmar.
I've heard good things about both. So
me too. Particularly Vietnam. I hear like Vietnam is the place to go now. So
well, I would like to go to Cambodia too. I haven't been to Southeast Asia very much, and I think Cambodia is really
Cambodia was more boring to me. It was flat and stuff. I tell you what's worth seeing there though, how many things and people in Southeast Asia can fit on a bicycle or a motorbike. It is unbelievable. I'm talking about a whole family in plywood and groceries and God knows what else on one damn little motorbike. Unbelievable what these people can do.
Yeah, no, I've seen that in that's true. I think in a lot of developing nations, though, right? I mean, you see that sort of thing. So we have to wrap up here a second. And we really appreciate you coming on. If people want to find out more about you, I know they can go to harrydent.com, sign up for your newsletter.
Get his newsletter, everybody. It's really good information.
Yeah, we have a free newsletter at harrydent.com. And then if people like that, we have paid newsletters too. But you just get to know us. And the free newsletter is good.
It's really, really good. I've been on it since we met last summer, and I love it. So I appreciate you and Rodney both giving your perspective on a daily basis. It seems like I don't actually know if it's every day, but it seems like it's every day. So
yeah, it is a daily newsletter.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. And so I can't recommend it enough. Everybody, please definitely go to harrydent.com and sign up for that newsletter. So not just about travel, like what you're going to do with the rest of your financial life, how you're going to move through this new economy that we're going to.
You have to manage your money to have enough money to travel.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So thank you everybody for joining us. Jeff, do you have any parting words?
No, I just thank you so much for coming on. Every time I talk to you, I'm constantly learning something, and it's always fantastic. And you're always welcome back on my shows, either of them. I don't care, anytime. So
Me
whenever
too.
you want to come on, you just let us know.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Tons of valuable information. Everybody, I'm Jillian Sidoti. That's Jeffrey Hulse. Thank you very much to our special guest, Harry Dent. And remember to live your last life ever.
Never gonna take my freedom.